videos, so do let me know if you don't want to be featured in them, and I'll make sure not to include you as well.
All good, thank you so much. So, good afternoon, everyone. So let's start, I guess. So, let's start things with a quick poll. Please raise a hand if you already use AI in your work in any way. That's interesting, because I think a year ago we didn't hear about it, and now we're gathered together at a talk at LDF trying to figure it out together. Astonishing, isn't it? So yeah, we hear about AI today everywhere basically. AI this, AI that, AI logo generator, AI new tool, AI infused in this, and it's just basically everywhere. So we cannot avoid it, and let's talk about it. When we talk about AI in a realm of future, we usually imagine a classic scenario where robots are overtaking humans, and I cannot blame ourselves because that's what movie industry taught us. But today I actually want to concentrate our attention on a bit different aspect. It's about human ability to create and creativity in general. Because we as humans, we are able to actually create beautiful things, and that's what I want to talk about. Of course, talking about AI and the future, we still have our worries as creatives and professionals with appearing questions in our head, like, will I lose my job? Will I stay relevant? Which skills do I need to acquire to stay relevant in the future and stuff like that. But don't worry, hopefully this lecture is going to provide you some answers, so afterwards, when you're going to leave the door, you're going to feel more confident, and what's more important, you're going to be inspired to create. Yeah, today's talk's we're going to talk about AI, and AI in three perspectives. Past, basically what led us here. Present, what is currently happening in the industry, and the future, how things are going to change because of AI. So what kind of lecture is it really without knowing who's giving it? I'm Elizaveta Stolyarova, or you just call me Lisa, that's easier. And I want to talk a bit of my practice, what I do. I'm a multidisciplinary practitioner, and I specialize in branding and art direction. And let me tell you one thing, I absolutely love integrating technology in my design process, sometimes in unexpected ways, and I'm going to show you how. One of the projects that I did recently was time and motion studies, where I was aiming to capture unseen movements, questioning how you can actually visualize movement in a sense. So I was able to do so by the means of modern technology. So this project resulted in two outcomes. First outcome was a photo series which I managed to achieve by attaching the lights to my hands and filming myself in a complete darkness using long exposure photography. That's how I managed to reveal the traces of my hands movement while performing household chores. If that doesn't seem fun to you, well, the second part of the project definitely will. For the second part of the project, I was actually started using virtual reality controllers to track my movements in 3D. I was like, why not? I want to build a neon model based on my movements. So in order to do so, I need to track my hands first to see how the shapes are going in a real size. So that's how I actually managed to create a neon model of my hand movements using virtual reality and long exposure photography. Interesting, branding designer talking to us about VR, long exposure photography in that sense. But let me tell you, it's all about tailoring the existing tools and technology to our creative needs. And that's actually bringing us to a very interesting topic, because design is a process with its stages and workflows. And we all know them. As creatives, we go through them many times in every project. Research, prototyping, implementation, stuff like that. And we usually, circle around to define things better. But what about the tools in this process? We usually talk about the actual process, the stages, but what about tools in this sense? Because tools in the design realm are actually very important, because depending on which tool you use, it can actually change the design process and the outcome of design work. Industrial revolutions introduced us to new tools, means of production, and actually divided the graphic communications in two distinguished parts, design and production. That's where we realized we are actually now able to have different tools and different processes. Digital revolution only enhanced that by introducing digital software. We now have the ability for experimentation, control of the colors and typography, and have almost limitless creative possibilities. So yeah, new tools, new processes. But we saw that shift before with the appearance of digital camera, painters switched to it. And with the Adobe package, it's also started to be able to create things. And of course, the outcome changed as well, not only the process and the tools. So different tools, processes, and thus outcomes. But what is AI in this? Is AI simply a tool? If so, what kind of process AI requires? I really like this quote by Steve Jobs, where he's referring to a computer as a remarkable tool and what's more important, a bicycle for our minds. And I really like that. And I can say I see AI as a bicycle for our minds, and I don't longer see it as a replacement or a threat. Nowadays we have, as creatives, we have this ability to use new tools, new technology, and actually our relationship with technology became two-sided. Technology became so integrated in the design process that I cannot actually imagine myself designing anything without it. And I can say that technology in a way is a new design process. I was having a conversation with my friend recently, and we were just chatting, about how we see AI in all of this. And she gave a very nice metaphor that I absolutely agree with. She said, AI is like a hammer in this context. I'm like, what do you mean? And she was like, well, you can always try to hammer a nail with your bare hands, but you can just use a tool which is made for this. I was like, yeah, that's correct. And actually, if we move to the topic of AI in general, it's been a huge buzz, because if big data is new oil, AI is definitely new electricity. We've seen a lot of topics that appear this year, with some of them already past us. However, it seemed like ChatGPT and AI in general is still with us. And it's actually, I think, gonna stay. Just to brief example, ChatGPT actually gained 100 million users just in 2 months. However, it took Instagram 30. And God knows how many research papers is going to be published this year on this topic alone. But ChatGPT is only a tip of an iceberg. AI is going to grow and technologies will expand, eventually reaching $755 billion by the year 2030 and having an impact of global economy. So yeah, as we can see, AI is going to stay with us, at least for a while. So let's figure out what is AI in simple terms? And I wish somebody explained it to me in the beginning of my research process and the project, so I tried my best to do this for you. So AI is a branch of computer science, and it is actually focusing on development intelligent systems and machines that can solve, complex problems which usually would have been solved by the humans. AI is built out of two things, if we take in general: data science and machine learning. But as well as that, it actually encompasses other technologies, such as natural language processing, NLP, computer vision, and robotics. So all these technologies require data to work. And this data can be taken from human knowledge, IoT devices, etc. And only after this data goes into the technology, it can actually later on be finally applied to the different fields. Finally, we made it. We're all here for it. Generative AI. I want to concentrate our attention on it because I do believe that generative AI is a very, very powerful tool when we're talking about creativity and a future of creative work. Generative AI can do astonishing, beautiful things. Sometimes you look at them and question, like, are those real? Like, what's going on? So yeah, I would like to concentrate on generative AI from now on. And let's imagine generative AI is like a painter who paints with the technology and create images and other media. We all know ChatGPT. It uses text prompt and provides a text output. That is called unimodal AI. Actually, in order to prompt correctly, you have to have these things in your prompt. You have to have context to give chat an idea of what's going on, the task, instruction, and then clarification. So you see how in this example, it is actually structured that way. I'm going to just leave it for a second. After you actually receive the answer from ChatGPT, you can always go back and refine and be like, yeah, let's use maybe another tone of voice. And that's interesting. However, when we talk about Midjourney and DALL-E, it's a completely different story. You put in the text prompt, but you get different media results. That's called multimodal AI. So when you put different prompts like describe this picture, imagine a picture of a cat, or even write a song about the cat, all these instructions go into the generative AI models with pre-trained data in order to finally give us our result. And results could be very different, starting from an image, text, song, and even a video. But my most important question here was, what is going on between when we put the prompt in and the result? What's actually happening in this so-called black box? What is going on inside? Let's have a sneak peek. So it can actually go in two ways here. The first is generative adversarial networks, or GANs. And the second one is transformer model. The first one, GNS, consists of two neural networks, the generator and discriminator. So to make it simple for you, let's imagine them as two characters. The first one, generator, creates a fake data from random noise, which then is turned into an image. Whereas discriminator, another model, is trying to distinguish whether this image fake or real. So the underlying idea of GAN models is that generator and discriminator are usually fighting against each other, trying to become better at what they do. moving to transformer models, the other way that could happen. Transformer models are usually used in more simpler AI like ChatGPT. It uses self-attention mechanism to actually understand the words in a sentence and the relationship between those words. But first of all, AI needs to go through some sort of education. It actually needs to be pre-trained on a huge amount of data, text, to learn grammar, facts, history, and language. Basically, transformer models used for NLP tasks, natural language processing, like language translation, text generation, and chatbots. That's what we all use in ChatGPT pretty much. So now hopefully you know briefly how it works, kind of clarified some things for you, and now we can move on to cool stuff, story time. So basically I want to just share with you my first interaction with AI, and when I realized that I want to do my final major project and research paper on AI, I went into ChatGPT and actually tried to ask it the speculative question to provide me an example of potential collaboration between humans and AI in the future. And this is what I got. I'm just going to leave it here to skim, but the most interesting part were my feelings that I was experiencing when I firstly saw that. I was like, wow, you can do that? That was very interesting. And from that point on, I was using ChatGPT, I swear, to everything. For next 2 weeks, I was hiring it to make workouts for me, to write me and like emails and stuff like that. And time goes by and I just realized that I'm addicted to the pace of life, to the fast results, and I'm like, whoa, let's step back. And then I actually moved on to generative AI, and I started discovering so many generative AI tools that I was just frustrated. I had the emotional sandwich, if not to say more. It's like frustration, excitement, interest, all in one, because there's just so many tools and I just didn't know where to start. That's why I maybe want to ask you guys, how do you feel about AI? Does it scare you? Does it interest you? Do you use it?
Definitely fun and addictive.
Oh yeah, definitely so. Yeah. Any other opinions, or everybody kind of agree with that?
We've had it recently, we've been recruiting for a few positions here, and we have an online application form, and we found that all the applications coming through have been using ChatGPT.
Yeah.
As we looked at, all these answers are really, because it's all anonymous and it's all the answers are then randomised,
Wow.
we noticed they're all similar. So we then typed the question in ourselves and it spat out the answer. So we've got to be really careful now with recruiting. So it seems like people are using it more and more.
Yeah, that's fair. Because actually I was interviewing a lot of creatives, designers, and I got a very mixed feedback about how they feel towards AI. Some of them thought of AI as something, that can boost their creativity, that is gonna ease up the things. And others were avoiding it because it seemed too complicated and artificial for them. And a lot of people were actually frightened by the future and the potential loss of the jobs. And the hard truth is that approximately 23% of the current jobs is gonna undergo changes and transformations. But as history showed us, the new technology actually brings new job and takes jobs. So there's potential that the creation of new jobs is going to appear, and we don't know yet about them. Some professions and jobs that we know now might potentially become an exclusive craft. Who knows, maybe in 10 years time we'll have a sommelier of typography who can distinguish old school design type and synthetic one. Who knows? But I guess we're all here to know how to use AI in our favor. How, or basically, that's skipped. Don't play with me. So basically, we want to know what kind of tasks AI can be handy at. So let's figure that out. Imagine you have 3 amazing ideas. You're like itching to pitch the client, and it's like new campaign, and you don't have extra 2 hours, bag of money to test them all, but now you can. Just within a few minutes, with the help of generative AI, you can test those 3 ideas by turning sketches into the visuals or fantasize a prompt from scratch. You can test those ideas and actually see which one works better. So that's what I did here. Just for an example, I uploaded in the sketch, very simple liner cake, and I used Alpaca AI with a prompt, photography of a birthday cake, colorful. Very simple prompt, nothing serious, but it actually gave me quite fascinating results. Imagine what you can do in a scale of a campaign testing. The second thing AI is very cool at in terms of creative profession is resizing photographs to fit context and basically enhancing the quality of the photographs. We no longer have the issue of non-existing background or lacking of it. We can zoom in, we can zoom out, we can create the whole new scene. Writing a copy. We are, as designers, and I know it's a huge struggle, usually asked to write a copy, but we are not copywriters. And unfortunately, sometimes we have to do that, whether we like it or not. So that is why AI is very handy in writing copy, not gonna lie. And finally, the thing that I very enjoy genuinely in my process is creating mock-ups and textures with AI. So for example, those 2 mock-ups I generated recently for a couple of projects, as well as these 2 textures and background that eventually ended up in a packaging. Obviously, the amount of the personalization AI can give us in a creative industry is very huge. It can provide us the way quicker A/B testing on the products and actually run our designs through accessibility tests, which is like highly important to actually understand if our designs are accessible for everyone. Do we using the right colors, the right size of the font? Is our typography suitable for dyslexic people? The whole imaginary world is now at the end of our fingertips, and that's very fascinating. AI actually allows us not only to skip routine and monotonous tasks, but also to train our creativity, to boost it. But this, what we discussed just now, cannot be done by the machines only. Because someone needs to set the right tasks, someone needs to curate everything. And of course, machine, unlike humans, cannot make logical links. And it cannot provide empathy or dive into the context that deep that we can. And obviously, it cannot understand emotions, which are highly, highly important in design and branding. The true potential lies in a human and AI collaboration, and I truly believe that. So let's look at some interesting case studies of what's currently happening in a field. So the first project I would like to introduce is actually a digital fresco made for Gucci store by Random Studio. And it is an ever-evolving landscapes of like Canggu and Renaissance architectural Florence, that is a hometown of Gucci. So what they did is actually tailor bits and pieces of the graphics and spread them all over 33 LED screens. I really want to show you how it looks. Does it have internet?
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's just a, it should be the BB one if you can get onto it. Oh, it should be connecting. It should be, it's my laptop is connected. So
Yeah.
it should be.
Hello?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's all good.
Because it's very visual. Let's have a look. So it is very interesting space and huge, to be fair. So it's like ever-changing landscape that changes by the time of the day, seasons of the year, and it's ever evolving. It's honestly fascinating. So it is in a very interesting space in the sense that it actually became immersive, because every time you visit it, it actually provides a new experience. And it's very interesting how the studio made the store look like something more than just a store. So basically this team actually used 3 models to combine their graphics, and a whole team of very skilled people to balance everything out and actually tailor bits and pieces of the AI graphics. Another project that they did is actually makes us question how AI gonna interfere with reality, and here they're experimenting with stable diffusion and how it can actually change things in a real time, providing us different look at the things. But how far this can go? I was curious, because when I saw this 2 projects, I was amazed. And actually, answer to this I got in the project of my dear friend Katya Slobodskaya, and she was actually using the term AI photography. And in her project, she was exploring the false floor of Uncanny Valley and creating images that are both very beautiful but yet unsettling. She was aiming to challenge our perception of reality, questioning the role of technology and what it can do. Those images are AI generated and actually is trying to mimic the film photography. She managed to do so by putting very accurate prompts in order for images to look like a countryside where she was born. And I would say, well, while I was looking at them, I couldn't believe they were made by AI. Such precision to detail and the atmosphere that cannot, I thought, could never be conveyed, but yet. The third project, very interesting, funky name, Kuzilab branding project, actually touches on the more industry-related and less speculative one. So this project was led by Richard Truly, and they researched the possible ways of AI and designers' collaboration, specifically in branding practice. So let's have a sneak peek at what they did. So basically, the first stage was logo generation, and they put in the prompt of Pop Soda logo. They got the results. Then they put in the actual packaging, Soda Pop cans in the cyberpunk style. And finally, they fit in the term Fizzy Love as a prompt, and they got the funky name, which resulted in the name of the brand. But that was just the starting point. The very interesting thing is that they were actually hired commercial type team and briefed them to get inspired by logos that AI generated and use them, get inspired from them. And that's what they did. On the left, you can see AI generated logos and type design as interpretation. Similarly, they worked with 3D backgrounds, the packaging, and using AI as a source of inspiration. That's what they achieved, and I think it's truly interesting. What these projects showed us. First of all, they showed us that AI is quite far away from replacing designers and working on its own. AI projects like this are actually two-sided process and require a lot of skill and precise art direction. But what's most important, AI, it's not just a tool of experimentation in those projects. It can actually be a source of an inspiration as a topic within itself. And moving on to the fashion world, they recently launched a fall campaign by Marc Jacobs, where Elizaveta was participating in. Actually, was inspired by the topic of AI within itself, questioning what is real or not real, the questioning artificialness, and the relation between humans and AI as a topic. So yeah, the other one was for Vogue Italia, and what they did, they actually prompted the backgrounds and then photoshopped the model right in. So for example, here they prompted the background big green inflated balloon in a gallery caught on a film. Then integrated both. Of course, we cannot talk AI without asking ethical questions and questioning the biases, outputs of AI's work. Basically, AI, as we all know now, is trained on databases, and those databases are human created. So in a sense, what is happening in the AI world is a reflection of a real one. And if real world, as we know it, is biased, then AI is biased as well, if not more. I actually want to show you this study that Bloomberg did, and on actually stable diffusion outputs. And by stable diffusion, the world is run by white male CEOs, women are rarely doctors, and men with the dark skin crimes. So here's just an example of the answers that's provided based on skin tone, gender, when time began, like high position jobs like CEO, lawyer, judge, etc. As we can see, there's no men in housekeeping section, or primarily all architects are men, especially white men. So this is a CEO, any CEO according to AI, and this is any doctor or doctor profession in general, and this is the problem. Or for example, stable diffusion pictures this when you type in criminal. And this is what we need to think about. Because what actually we put in those databases is up to us. And the way we train AI is also going to influence whether we're going to beat this issue or not. I do truly believe that if AI is going to be trained correctly, it could help us eliminate biases, because AI is a machine overall, it is a computer that actually performs on data, on statistics, and unlike humans, it doesn't have personal preferences and what to pick. And if the data is going to be inclusive enough, then we can try and eliminate biases. The other very important question that AI is raising is ownership and the copyright, authorship of the work Previously, it was easier, but now, when you cannot copyright the images that you produce and cannot protect yourself as the author, is a very important question. Let's imagine a person who shared images of himself to be in a stock photography platform and sign an agreement that those can be used online. But they had no idea of the technology that would be available for us today, which can potentially take the face of that person and put it in a completely different scenario that they're not comfortable with. So basically, that is why we should use AI wisely, or at least have an ongoing thinking process about the things that I've just discussed. It's a very powerful tool, but we have to know how to use it wisely. Let's move on to my experimentations. I also am doing AI project overall, so let's look at what I did. So as you know, I'm a branding designer, and the first thing that I wanted to gain and understand is how well AI can actually understand the current brands, how it can adopt and predict the styles. So I started off with typing in the prompts without saying the name of the brand to an AI, to see how it actually can perform and understand what brand I'm trying to mimic. So drink that is refreshing and promoting people getting together, energy, red color, Coca-Cola. And I was amazed by the result because it's actually quite similar to the potential things that they might do as a brand. Or another one, I just put in description and I would say green color, and you know, pretty similar campaign to Rolex. That's also generated by the AI. So yeah, those two things were generated by those prompts. And I was like, that's great, interesting insight, but how far can I take this? Can I actually, you know, make it more and enhance it? So I decided to create a full imagery brand campaign. That's what I did. I decided to create an imaginary campaign for Gucci, where I was actually working with settings, the people, and objects. And I think that's pretty accurate, especially the bag. Very interesting how AI immediately captured the color palette, the way models should look like. Very accurate. To mention, none of this is real, not the background, not the bag, not the model. Everything you saw just now was made by AI, specifically for imaginary campaign. That's insane. The other thing that I did recently is actually I designed a poster series for promotion campaign for one of the brands that I'm currently working with. And my task was to create, you know, eye-catching posters without using any real photo shoots, any clothing, any models. So I decided it's time to use AI. So yeah, but I still needed to deliver a vibe and a style of the brand. So the posters you're gonna see here is gonna be a promotion of the brand without showing anything that brand owns, just by delivering the specific messages that brand has. And look at the detail and how it all works together. Very interesting. So my job here as an art director was to outline the ideas, usual, you know, sketch ideas, find references, think about the lighting, the settings and stuff. But this time, I was bringing it to life by the use of AI. So it was the first time I created so-called AI campaign photo shoot. That was very interesting experience. And finally, helpful tips and tricks that I want to share with you that I figure out through my process. And of course, the most important part is you need to know how to prompt correctly, specifically for generative AI. So Midjourney, or really any kind of generative AI formula on a basic level should consist of those things. The first one, you should mention the medium. Is it the photo? Is it the illustration? What you want to see? The second one is basically what is who is the main subject of your imagery? Is it a woman standing, dog running, man talking? You also need to zoom back and talk about the environment. Is it London? Is it inside, outside? Then it would be helpful to mention the style or reference an exact photographer or an illustrator, as well as to write in what kind of mood should image convey. And finally, you should finalize it with the aspect ratio, what kind of size the image you want to have. But you can go further. You can, type in the composition, film type, or camera angle, lighting, stuff like that. So in the end, your prompt can actually look like this and result in this. Very accurate, cinematic, almost like came out of the campaign just now. Or the prompt like this, which also follows the structure that I just showed you. And it actually can result like in the movies too. Fascinating, precision, detail, capture of idea. And finally, the future, how AI gonna change things? Let's talk about it. How AI is gonna change design and creative practice in general is overarching question of my whole project, to be honest. So let's try to be speculative and fantasize for a minute. What kind of jobs and professions can appear in the future? First of all, as we see them now, AI artists, they're emerging already now, collaborating with brands. But what's interesting about them is ability to express emotions and creative thinking freely, because they don't need an actual skill to draw. They can just express themselves in the text and let the models do their work. So this actually raises important questions that many new creative voices gonna appear, could you imagine? AI photographers. That would actually remind the current profession of photographers and art directors, shooting directors, was like setting on the lighting, picking the models and stuff, but everything would be done with the help of AI. And obviously, as we understood, a very important thing for AI is how you and what kind of data you put in. So there's going to be data curators, I believe. So skilled people who would go through databases or create databases, making sure they're inclusive, effective, and accurate. And what's more important, brands will need their own models, which are specifically trained or understand their style, their approach, so they can generate new campaigns based on those models. So they need data curator to actually compile it all together perfectly. As for AI tools, well, it's a lot of them, not gonna lie. But what I see now is that AI tools are actually very tailored to marketing teams, and they're trying to replace designers and trying to perform very wide variety of actions, which I believe in the future is going to change, and we're going to see more tailored to creatives specific tools related to branding or typography, so it will be more niche than now. obviously now it's quite bizarre, and everybody's trying to do almost the same thing, and you don't know which tool to pick really. What about design education? Could you imagine a completely new tool, skill? So obviously that would undergo significant changes. So first of all, as creatives, we would need to be aware of prompt engineering and basic understanding of AI. Secondary, the tutor should like go through assessment of creative work from a different angle now having AI in it. For example, when uploading written submissions, like, you know, you have to clarify how to use that. And I believe AI is going to be very handy as a personal tutor who can scan through your designs and suggest the topics of improvement, or the topics, for example, like layout, to like study more. So you actually scan the whole work, realize that, oh, you know, this could be some improvements on the basic topics, and make you some suggestions. It's not going to limit the creative freedom, but other, in terms of education, suggest where to look and what kind of things to improve. Obviously, to be the part of this new world that we're gonna soon be at, we need to look at the skills, specific ones, to stay relevant, and actually try to gather them. So let's look at the future designer skill set. First of all, as we understood, in order to prompt and reference correctly, we need to know our design history. We need to know who to mention, what kind of styles we want, so to create freely. We need to know good prompt engineering, as well as basic coding and machine learning. I think that's going to be a skill that all of us should acquire. Creative thinking, because it's the only thing that, no, not the only one, but one of the most important things that distinguish us from the machines is actually creative thinking, and we should enhance that. Multidisciplinary approach. I believe that we would no longer be very tailored to one craft, but rather move in between the fields and experiment more as creatives. And obviously, stay tuned about all the things that's happening to actually gain the knowledge on the new tools that are appearing. And some final thoughts? I believe that AI goes beyond automating tasks and beyond helping us do our routine work. It actually, in a skilled hands, I believe that it's just a starting point and a source of inspiration. So do you think, is AI simply a tool? No? Who knows? That's pretty much it. So I'm hoping to answer your questions if you have any. Yeah.
Which of the generative AI tools do you probably use the most, do you think?
I think Midjourney, to be fair, and I think I decided to concentrate on it to get like in-depth ideas of how I can work with it. And as you can see in the, I mean here as well, it's also Midjourney. Midjourney is very good at precise details and portraits. But I used others, but just for the sake of those projects that I shared today, the Midjourney was like the leading one.
Look at the tools in sort of UX design, interaction design, that sort of thing as well, because we're talking very visually, I suppose, but about sort of behaviour led. Yeah,
absolutely. It can recognize the patterns. It can suggest, you know, when you need to do a classic landing page, it still has a, you know, structure that can be pre-trained. But if you look at it from a different perspective, you can actually have the creative freedom to tailor it more without like redrawing similar layouts each time. You can actually fine-tune it by the end. So yeah, it definitely has its influence, and there are already tools for UX and UI design, but I still believe it's on the stage where it should be very fine-tuned, but it's going to help with a more routine structures. Yeah. My question maybe for you was, did you know something about it, like the overall topic? You came prepared, or what was the level of your interest? I'm just wondering. Yeah.
Hi, I'm design professor in Germany, and I'm familiar with that. And actually, we are already teaching our students to actually get them into AI, and they are trained AIs actually to create branding. So, but I have another question for you.
Yep.
So the topic is rather familiar to me. When you talk about your prompts, and
Yep.
I see one really crucial ethical problem with them. It's actually, thank you for that, that's perfectly made, just from a design point of view, thank you very much. That you said style reference and mood.
Yeah.
When you call style reference, so you refer always to an already existing artist, and they're not getting reimbursed for the work they put in. That's one issue. The second issue is there is no ever is going to come something out of the AI, something really new. So you always replicate only what there is already, and then you have a loop back that you have a self-fulfilling system. So the quality of the images is going to get worse, to be honest. So how do you see that in the perspective of your work?
So I personally, I put this kind of structure because AI uses it itself, because every time I upload something and I use describe tool, it actually always references somebody's work.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge fan of doing so myself, but yeah, it's how unfortunately AI works. But a good question, and I actually want to show you something. I recently was having an interview with the team. So basically, very interesting guys that are trying to create the unique models based on the works of each artist. So basically, you can go in, upload your work, and create artworks. It's quite ethical because they're trying to beat this copyright idea by actually saying, oh, whatever you created is copyrighted, and whatever model you create, and if somebody's want to create with that model, is actually also belongs to you.
That's very interesting.
They're very interesting guys, and they just won like a Google Award startup. I had a lovely chat with them, and I'm hoping to like upload some insights from it. But yeah, very cool project. And I think when I was mentioning the tools and how the tools gonna become more tailored to the creative practice, I think that kind of things that what we gonna see. So hopefully, obviously, because now we have only like a huge models and primarily the tools that are for everyone. That is why they're quite generic, and I think the tools for designers and creators is going to be a bit different.
I hope so.
Yeah, hopefully. It's our job to try to do so.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Adobe's recently sort of releasing their own AI models as well. How do you think they can compare to Midjourney?
I mean, the Photoshop model is not that great at all, at all, and nothing close to Midjourney. I would say I would use it to extend some backgrounds if I need, because like the stuff that it produces is far away from reality. I think AI in Photoshop is actually somewhere on another planet. It's definitely not using the right databases.
Is it the same as they use for Firefly then? Is that a different model?
Unfortunately, I didn't have full access to Firefly because my Adobe package, but I can't tell you that. I can't tell you that.
I think that there is a tool that is gonna beat Midjourney, and it's DALL-E 3. So I was reading just yesterday, and there is this guy keeps on joining AI newsletters, and he says that in the coming weeks, DALL-E 3 is gonna come up in the ChatGPT only. So already ChatGPT is easier than Discord, because Midjourney you have to go to these different platforms and all this. And then they mentioned that actually the output is more precise. Like if you say this old person has to be sitting in this chair with these characteristics, it's gonna be that. Midjourney many times don't give you the exact output from your prompt, so that might be quite interesting, especially since ChatGPT already has many users and a lot of data.
But what I'm very, very interested in, and what my whole project is about, is actually shared education on this topic, because I see many creatives are struggling from where to start, how do you just like go into this bubble of everything. So basically, yeah, like gathered learning, gathered education, and shared education is like very important thing to acquire, as well as maybe some creative tasks that might be applied, like you go to like specific platform and it suggests you creative tasks that you can do with AI just to train your creativity. I think we should stop looking at AI as, oh, I can put this person in this suit, but it's so much more. It's unlimited access, and if your creative freedom is enough, then you can definitely make great things with it. Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why I do not see AI as just a tool, because I feel like it's something more than the tool, because it has its own conscience and things like that. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, like I would like to know what you think, Lisa. Like this thought just came to my mind where you said that since AI will be like so open to, like for anyone and everyone, do you think there will be a lot of creation of junk content as well? Because I was working on another project recently where I studied about like the creator economy, like how it's like growing like a lot, and apparently like it is estimated that around 50 million people around the world consider themselves as creators, out of which 46.7 million are amateurs and only about 2 million are actual professionals. So I mean, what do you think? Like, then is it that designer is going to be like anybody and everybody is a designer? So, what's the difference between a professional one and, yeah, well, the other individual who's, you know, having the same capabilities as the professional one? So
yeah, but as we saw, you know, having a very good and tailored branding project still requires the knowledge of the design basics and what's important, creative vision and ability to art direct things. People can use AI, they can be good at prompting, but actually taking it back to real life and applying it, for example, to branding is a completely different story. I mean, when I created the series of posters, yeah, I could have just, you know, uploaded the images and they look quite nice, but I actually, as a brand specialist, I tailored the meaning that this poster should convey, and this still requires skill and education. So yeah, AI is going to provide a lot of freedom and open up new creative voices for sure. People who cannot draw, as I said before, will now become AI artists. But there is
and lazy artists. And lazy artists.
Yeah, but you know, like people who cannot draw, but they're very expressive in terms of creativity. For example, they write amazing stories, or they're writers, and they want to illustrate those stories that they have in their heads, and they can now do it with AI. So it's actually if you look at
actually it's a wicked problem, to be honest. I think like it's
obvious.
I mean, it has its own plus and minuses.
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
think
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it's only up to us to decide how we're going to use AI, but I believe we should use it wisely in a favor of our creativity rather than just, you know, performing all the routine tasks.
I also feel like if like these AI created images and assets, like if they used only for like up to the mood boarding stage, I think that's fine, because then I feel like other like creators, like perhaps like like photographers or like makeup artists, like still have potential to actually like, you know, work into creating the final output. But then this question again comes to my mind, that do we still need those artists to invest like so much of heavy equipment, resources to create some campaign image that AI is already creating with such high fidelity, you know what I mean? Like, then again the question arises that then do we still invest like with all of those equipments, resources? Because then this whole question about sustainability also comes in, you know, like, I don't know. I'm just
AI
like throwing
its
out
own
like
sustainability like issues. It's not just it should go somewhere. And the amount of data that's produced with AI and just tapped in for fun, it's also
Yeah, that's the additional
It
sustainability is a whole
requires
other game.
space, but yeah, it's completely different talk. So yeah, hopefully you did gain some knowledge on the topic. I tried to make it as clear and simple as possible because I was struggling myself in the beginning of my project, and I just wish somebody, showed this to me and be like, don't worry, that's what it can do, how it works, and that's how things might be changing in the future.
Do you think it's like legally safe to use Midjourney and DALL-E at the moment? Like they're not. I don't know how future-proof those ones are.
What kind of, what sense?
Well, there's several lawsuits ongoing at the moment,
Yes.
isn't there? And I feel like certainly in some countries it could easily sort of deem them as illegal or you by using copyright material. Whereas I think the Adobe stuff at least from a legal standpoint is a little bit further ground. So I'm just wondering, is it because we did have subscriptions mid-Jan and when the Adobe stuff starts to come out, we're like, okay, well, let's leave that.
Yeah, I heard because I was talking to my friends at BBDO Branding. They were sharing that they actually use AI a lot now, but on the stages of inspiration, mood boarding. It is, as I said, as a starting point rather than the final result. You can be inspired and then create different or similar things. But I see it and I believe it that you cannot just upload the prompt or the prompt into, like, for example, Stable Diffusion to have a video campaign, and that would be it. I think it's just a fine-tuning in terms of it can give you just one direction or like one of the layers of your work that should be done. It's just an addition, enhancement, rather than, oh yeah, this is the final result. Of course, it's not legal to like put in the prompt and here's the campaign. I did it for fun. But yeah, like if we're talking about the future and realistic campaigns and how brands gonna approach it, I believe that's a part of the process only and not the final outcome, and a huge source of inspiration. So in that sense, that's legal.
Yes, for sure, but maybe the Louis Vuitton one, not so much.
Yeah. It is. It's just study project. So how actually accurate the models can mimic the brand style is why it's imaginary campaign. It's not real, but as we saw, it can go quite far in it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.